This first challenge measures your acceleration and braking ability. Accelerate as hard as possible when prompted, and then bring the car to a complete stop inside the marked zone 100 meters ahead. Finish within the target time to earn game credits and trophies. You'll need to correctly judge how much time and pavement it'll take to stop the car effectively. Use the various signs and markers as your braking point. This will help you judge the distance needed to come to a complete stop. Your second challenge is to accelerate and bring the car to a complete stop inside a marked zone 200 meters ahead within the time limit. Your speed and the size and power of your vehicle are important factors in judging braking distance. Use various markers to find the ideal place and time to start applying your brakes. In the first of our two advanced braking tests, you're required to accelerate as hard as possible before bringing the car to a complete stop inside the marked zone 400 meters ahead. As car power and driving distance increase, so does the braking distance. Paying attention to track markers is even more important in order to stop in time. You should aim to stop the car right as it enters the end zone. For this second 400-meter challenge, you'll have to accelerate and bring the car to a complete stop inside a small zone 400 meters ahead. With a small stopping zone, you'll have to use track markers and memorize how much pavement it takes for your car to come to a halt. Take into consideration your vehicle's speed when determining when to apply the brakes. Only then will you achieve success. Find the optimal braking and acceleration points to maneuver through this challenge. Your speed entering and exiting a corner are important factors when racing. Make sure you slow down before turning to ensure maximum control of your car, then get back on the gas as you come out of the corner. For this test, you'll need to start braking as you initiate turn-in. The key here is to brake and turn separately in the beginning. Get your braking done first, and then start turning the steering wheel. Once you get used to this, you can start overlapping the two. Use this first challenge to understand a car's handling features and response time. Any major deviation off the track will result in an instant disqualification. The steering angle will increase and decrease according to the length of time the direction key is pressed. Try to learn how much a car turns according to how long the button is pressed. Maneuver through this right-to-left gradual S-turn and race to the finish line. In a mild S-turn like this, you'll want to minimize the amount of steering input and try to race through in a straight line as much as possible. Drive so that you clip the inside of each corner. Find the apex on this tight 180-degree hairpin turn. Make sure to use all of the road here to stretch this corner out as much as possible. Don't just stick to the inside of the turn because you'll end up steering too much. The less steering you do, the faster you'll get through corners like this one. Test your racing technique at Fuji Speedway's Coca-Cola high-speed corner. The goal is not to lose too much speed on entry and exit full throttle. Finding the optimal racing line is key when negotiating a racetrack. Always look to clip the apex of every corner, but stay wide before turning in and when going out. Use all of the track. This dirt course in the Swiss Alps is the ideal place to get your feet wet in the world of rallying. Use the full width of the track, making sure your racing line gets you out of the corners with as much speed as possible. Maintain a constant speed by rhythmically tapping on the throttle. The right-hander just before the goal is fairly tight, so having the right entry speed here is key. The high-speed rings S's go from a large corner to a tight one. Find the optimal driving line and race to the finish. The first corner is fairly long, so maintain a steady speed by regulating the throttle. Too much will force you to the outside of the corner and away from the apex. Try to stay on the inside of each corner. Negotiate your car through Suzuka's tricky left-right left S's. Stay on the track and head for the finish line. Finding a rhythm is important when tackling a series of challenging S's. Use both the steering wheel and throttle to weave your way through the corners. Drive through this technical section where you go from a high-speed chicane to a medium-speed right turn. You'll need to switch directions quickly. You can get through the right corner after the chicane quickly if you power slide or drift through it. However, if your car's angled too much, you'll lose time instead. This is a difficult challenge, going from high speeds into consecutive hairpin. Brake and get your car to drift into the corner. The most important thing about successfully getting through this hairpin is slowing the car down and turning into the corner at the right time. If you don't brake enough or turn in quickly enough, you'll go wide in the corner and miss your apex. If you stick to the inside of the first hairpin, it'll be easier to be in the right position for the next corner. Challenge the last section of Opera Paris, where the course is narrow and there are repeating corners. Be careful not to hit the walls. When confronted by consecutive corners, you'll need to make sure your car is always in the right position for the following corner. Make sure you know exactly when to get on the brakes and when to get back on the throttle for maximum speed through these turns. Test your skills on this winding section of road. You'll need to always know which tire is taking on the most load. To effectively turn the car into a sharp corner, apply the brakes so the weight is shifted to the front of the car, then turn the steering wheel. This ensures maximum grip to the front tires, allowing them to turn the car more effectively. On the other end of the spectrum, during hard acceleration, the weight is shifted onto the rear tires, so your steering inputs won't be as responsive. Try braking in a difficult situation on a turn that switches from right to left, where lateral Gs are placed on the car. Getting used to the handling balance for mid-engine cars can be tricky because the engine's mass is behind you. The car's rear end has a tendency to come around if you're not careful with the brakes and throttle during a turn. For best results, brake in a straight line. Also, try regulating the brake pedal by tapping it to prevent wheel lockup. Your first trial will be taking on the high-speed ring's bank turn. In a bank corner, you'll be able to turn much faster than in corners without a bank. Avoid abrupt braking. Instead, play with the throttle to let the bank help you turn. For your second challenge in this series, weave your way through New York City's 90-degree corners. Long U-shaped turns can be tricky because they're not exactly hairpins, but in reality, two consecutive corners that bend in the same direction. So treat them as two separate corners by using two apexes. In this third challenge, there are a couple of ways to take on this tricky 270-degree corner. It's up to you to figure out the best way to get through this turn as quickly as possible. There are two ways to successfully get through this corner. The conventional way is to ensure maximum grip of all four tires as you negotiate the turn. The other way is trickier. Take advantage of the mid-engine car's oversteering character and break the rear tires loose. Then drift your way through. Keep engine revs up by carefully managing the throttle. Too much throttle, and you'll spin. Changes in altitude, such as this inclined S-turn, are a great way to test your track knowledge and racing skills. Can you find the driving line and make it to the finish? A car's handling is greatly affected by elevation changes. On an incline, a car will turn better because more weight is on the front wheels. Well, when going downhill, the car won't turn as sharply. Pay attention to load distribution on all four tires when driving on undulating roads. Motegi's East Course has a challenging series of inclines and bank turns. Race through this portion of the track and focus on car control and road grip. The angle of Motegi's bank corners changes through the shortcut that leads from the East Course to the main course. This is a very tricky portion of the track. The corners have negative banking, which easily upsets a car's handling balance. Proceed with caution. This combination of tricky corners will test your braking and turning skills. What makes it challenging is that the corners are different sizes. Slowing the car down appropriately from the high-speed section is key here. If you carry too much speed when entering a corner, you'll find that the front tires won't be able to grip the pavement, resulting in understeer. This means that the car will have a tendency to keep going straight, despite the fact you're turning the steering wheel, and the car will be forced to the outside of the corner. Try trail braking into the corner, where you're gradually on the brakes as you turn in. This will help the front tires regain grip. On the last part of Gran Valley, you'll be required to negotiate the tight S's in a high-powered front-engine, rear-wheel drive car. Once you go through the right corner at the start, move your line to the right and set yourself up so that you'll enter the S-curve from the outside. You'll be prone to understeer when you accelerate, so you'll need to operate the throttle carefully at the exits of each corner. Try driving through the chicane, where there's a series of tight left-right turns. Make sure to adequately decelerate to get through successfully. It's vital to slow the car down before coming up on the first corner. If you don't slow down enough, you'll miss the apex of that corner, and this will make it very difficult to be in the right position for the following left-hander. Enter the corner slowly and come out quickly. This is a challenge in which you'll weave through a row of pylons. Drive so you don't knock them over and race to the finish line. The most important part of the slalom is the coordinated operation of the steering and the throttle. Let off the throttle and turn the steering wheel. Once the car starts changing direction, return the steering and step on the accelerator. You'll be repeating this basic operation. So you need to do this quickly. The rhythm in your operation is also important. A car's drivetrain layout dictates its performance and handling balance. For this first trial, you'll be piloting a front-engine, front-drive car on the Tsukuba circuit. Front-engine, front-drive cars have a tendency to understeer when cornering. You'll need to make sure you have the right speed before turning in, making sure the front tires will properly grip the pavement. An all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive layout has the highest level of stability due to each wheel being directly powered by the drivetrain. Take this all-wheel drive car out to the Tsukuba circuit to test this theory. Though four-wheel drive cars are known for their superior traction, they do have a tendency to be heavier than other drivetrain layouts. Take this into consideration, as overspeeding into a turn will make the car prone to understeer. For this last trial, you'll be driving the most popular drivetrain in motorsports, front-engine, rear-wheel drive. Your goal is to maneuver this car through Tsukuba to reach the finish. Cars with front-engine, rear-drive layouts may oversteer if you're too abrupt with the throttle through corners. Make sure you're aware of the difference in handling between a front-engine, front-drive car and a front-engine, rear-drive one. Try driving a long corner that curves wide. Be careful, even a slight mistake can force you off the road. While you're on the inside of the corner, modulate your speed with the throttle. It's extremely important to get as much speed as possible coming out of the turn, so where and when you get back on the throttle is vital. If you go to full throttle too early, you'll understeer off the course. Try driving an S-curve in the dirt. Be on your guard. The first corner to the right will get tighter as you go further in. When you enter any turn, always think about your exit point and entry point into the next turn. If you go too fast into the first turn, your driving line will be compromised, you'll miss the apex, and entry into the next turn will be forced outward. Slow down early for the right corner and closely hug the inner side. Pylons have been lined up on the high-speed chicane of the Autumn Ring. Try to get past them without knocking any over as quickly as possible. A characteristic of mid-engine rear-wheel drive cars, such as the Lotus Elise, is that the rear comes out when letting off the throttle in mid-turn, sometimes changing direction in left-right transitions. Use this to your advantage as you maneuver past the pylons. You'll be driving on a section where you will climb at a high speed, then descend quickly. Control your vehicle's speed so that you do not run off the course. Watch your driving line and control your speed. You'll be forced off the course if you go into the descent at a high velocity, so you'll need to decelerate just before the descent. You'll want to brake properly for the later low-speed sections as well. Try a blind corner where it's difficult to see ahead, and watch out not to brake too late. In corners that are on an incline, especially those on top of an uphill climb, the exit of the corner is not visible in many cases. You'll need to memorize the track's layout and apex points in order to predict these blind corners. Challenge a high-speed S-curve on an incline. This is a blind corner, so be careful not to crash. You'll need to know the shape of this corner well and set your driving line without being influenced by the ups and downs. The radius of the corner is not extremely tight, so you'll be able to boldly cut across the berm on the inside. Take on the carousel, the famous corner at Nürburgring. Use the inner bank to your advantage. Once in the bank section of the corner, control your speed with the throttle to avoid being pushed outward. Once the exit out of the corner is visible, give it full throttle. Challenge the corkscrew, the infamous highly inclined chicane of Laguna Seca Raceway. Master one of the most dynamic corners in the world of racing. The descent is extremely steep, but it is driven like a standard chicane. Connect the insides of every corner to drive in the shortest line. Because visibility is bad due to the incline, make sure you do not steer too late into the right corner in the last half. Try the spoon corner at the Suzuka circuit, a combined corner that starts to turn sharper as you go in. Think of sections with two consecutive corners going in the same direction as a single large corner, and hit the apex on the insides of each corner. Master the victory corner and the twin wing motegi, where a large corner to the left and a tight corner to the right are combined. The key here is to slow the car down between the two corners. There's a small straight between the first left-hander and the following right-hander. Use that section to decelerate the car. You can try slowing the car down at the end of the first corner, but you run a higher risk of disturbing the car's handling balance. Challenge a combined corner at the last leg of the Fuji circuit. Try to find a line that will allow you to clear the corner quickly. Here, you want to raise your exit speed out of the corner as much as possible. In combined corners like this, where the corner turns tighter later on, you want to set your apex further into the corner. Challenge the high-speed section continuing from the Porsche curves of the soft circuit. Be careful, even a small mistake will make you crash. The driving line is extremely important here. Think of corners in sections, not one by one, and try to take a driving line that minimizes steering angles. Attempt to overtake opponents on the Fuji Speedway home straight. The key to success is the use of slipstreams. When you're driving behind an opponent, air resistance is reduced and your car will go faster. This effect is known as the slipstream. Once you are in the slipstream and your car's speed is increased, time your exit and overtake your opponent. Overtake opponents by the exit of the first corner. Take your shot at the entry point into the corner. On the straightaway, increase your speed using the slipstream of your opponent. However, the speed of your opponent will be too fast to overtake on the straight. Move to the inside of the corner at the entry point into the corner and get ahead of your opponent by braking slightly late. This is known as the late braking technique. While clearing repeating technical corners, pass two opponents. Try not to run off the course. The best way to get through this test is to pass one car at the first corner and the other car at the final corner. The Mini Cooper doesn't possess much power, so control your speed by getting on and off the accelerator and avoid using the brakes as much as possible. Drive the first section of the Crown Mountain Circuit. Overtake two opponents before the finish line. It's important to time where you make your pass, but setting yourself up to drive this section as fast as possible is also very important in this challenge. The blind corner to the left in the first tunnel is an important point. Don't go inside of the corner immediately, but set your driving line locating your apex further into the corner. A clash of American supersports cars in the Seattle City Circuit. Overtake three opponents before the finish line. One of the hidden lessons here is controlling the high-horsepower mid-engine Ford GT. The car has a tendency to oversteer into corners, so you'll need to be careful with your steering inputs. Also, make sure you get all your braking done in a straight line, or the rear may swing out. In the Volkswagen Supersport W12 Nord Concept, overtake 3 opponents before the finish line. This car has a tendency to understeer through corners. Watch your speed at the exit of the turn. Go too fast, and you'll drive right off the course. Overtake your rival while clearing low to mid-speed corners. Carefully time your opportunity. You'll start this test on a high-speed section of the track. Your success will depend on getting right up to the rear of the other car. Stay on his bumper until you come up to the tight right-hand corner. You should be able to overtake your opponent as you brake for the corner. In the 1962 Skyline Coupe, overtake your rival before the finish line. Because this is an older car with less power, you'll be required to drive more efficiently. Stick right behind your opponents in the straightaways to gain speed and attempt to pass at the entry into the chicanes. Pass 2 opponents before the finish line in the Dodge Viper SRT10. Don't be confused by the ups and downs of the track. Though there are steep inclines here, the course is wide, so it should not be too hard to pass as long as you set your driving lines well. Take your first opponent in the first half and your second opponent in the later hairpin turn. Attempt to overtake 2 opponents on the Paris City course. The course is narrow, so you have to be very careful not to hit the walls. Though you'll be tempted to pass in the straightaway, it'll be better to pass opponents at the entry to the corner. Delay your braking to force yourself into the inside of the course. However, you must be careful not to hit the wall or other cars since the course is fairly narrow. Attempt to overtake 3 opponents in muscle cars using a 1969 Corvette. Go for the top using advanced driving skills. Muscle cars are very powerful, but their weakness lies in their heavy weight. In a layout like the New York City course, if you do not decelerate enough for the corners, your driving line will easily flare outward and force you to hit the walls. Also, steering response will be slower than in other lightweight sports cars, so you have to start steering earlier. Attempt to overtake 3 rival cars on the midsection of the Nürburgring. Try not to crash and go for the win. The Nürburgring represents one of the most difficult racetracks in the world to overtake opponents on because of its narrow width and numerous consecutive corners. For this test, you're required to pass 3 opponents before the finish line. Make sure your tires don't lose traction when getting on the throttle, even with the TCS on. If you induce wheel spin, your acceleration will be compromised. Be steady on the throttle and use the GTR's excellent traction to its full potential. Try a hairpin corner. The real key to mastering dirt courses? Learn to power slide with the throttle. Enter the corner while changing the car's direction by braking and steering operations. And once the car starts to turn inward, enter the car into a power slide with the throttle. You'll need to be bold in this maneuver. Challenge the special rotary corner of the New York City course. Try to find the optimal driving line and head for the goal. Throttle work once you enter the rotary section is important. You want to maintain the maximum throttle opening without causing your car to slide outwards. Master the repeating right corners and the U-shaped hairpin at the middle section of the Grand Canyon. Consider the 2 corners as a single corner and drive so that you just nick the insides of both. It's best if you can clear this while maintaining a drifting condition. Try cornering from a jumping spot. Make your approach carefully so that your car does not lose its balance. To safely clear the jumping spot, you must go in straight. Even with the corner approaching, you want to come out in a straight line as much as possible. This is an uneven S-curve that goes from a mild right turn to a hard left. Keep your car drifting to clear the corner quickly. To change the direction of a car while drifting, it's necessary to use the brakes cleverly. While braking, turn the steering towards the direction you want to face, then give it throttle. This series of operations should be performed quickly. Challenge the high-speed section at the first half of Grand Valley in a mine skyline. Once you're past the hairpin, you'll reach the goal. Because of the higher vehicle speed, the key is how quickly you clear the high-speed corners in the first half. You'll be able to save some time if you are able to ride your tire on top of the berms on the inside at the last left turn. Drive a legendary supercar, the Lamborghini Countach LP400 through a wide, medium-speed left corner. Be careful not to run off the track. The Countach is a powerful car, but responds naturally and is relatively easy to drive. However, overspeeding will force you off the track, so you need to control your speed in the corner with the throttle. You'll be driving through repeating 90-degree turns characteristic of urban areas in an SLR McLaren, and try not to hit the walls. Out in out is the key phrase when taking on a 90-degree corner. But when there are two consecutive 90-degree turns, you need to make sure you don't come out too wide at the exit of the first corner. Instead, make sure you come out of the first corner in the proper position for entering the second corner. Here, the second corner is a blind corner, so make sure you know exactly where to be and when to turn in before coming up on this corner. Try clearing a high-speed S-curve on an incline using the Saline S7, and be careful not to hit the walls. The key to success here is how you slow your car down. The rear end of the car has a tendency to slide out, so make sure you get your braking done in a straight line when there are no lateral G's at play. Using the Chisetta V16T, challenge a difficult descending corner that turns wide to the left at the Infineon Raceway. To drive fast, you want to fully utilize the width of the course and find a line that will allow you to fully open your throttle as early as possible. You want to place your apex at the latter half of the corner. Drive the midsection of Deep Forest, the Pagani MR Supersport, the Zonda C12. Carefully control the machine to reach the finish line. High-powered rear-drive cars tend to exhibit oversteer through turns. The key here is to use that to your advantage. Let the rear end come out a bit to get the nose pointed in the right direction. Drive the last part of the Côte d'Azur where it changes from a high-speed section to an ultra-low-speed section. Master the Enzo Ferrari. Be careful. You may experience oversteer when you let off the throttle. The key point here is the high-speed section in the first half. Use the entire width of the course right up to the guardrails and try to set yourself a line that minimizes steering angle. This is a run on a slippery road with snow. Get used to the surface, being careful not to spin out or crash as you head for the goal. On snowy roads, the steering response of a car will be delayed even more than in dirt. You'll need to perform everything early and with even more care. Immediately after starting is an icy road with no snow, followed by a section of snow. Feel the difference in the car's movements. On ice, you will get more grip than on snow, but the snow on the edges of the road are very slippery and must be watched for. It will be safer if you complete decelerating before going into the snow section. Clear the consecutive hairpins by changing directions while drifting. Stay focused on what tires are taking the loads. Your skills in changing direction with brakes and throttle control gained on the dirt will be useful here. Once the car goes into the slide, be very careful with the throttle. Try this difficult, narrow, and winding section. You'll need to figure out how to whip the car around in a tight location. When drifting your car in a narrow place, throttle control is vital. If you're too abrupt with the throttle through corners on slippery surfaces, like snow in this case, you'll induce oversteer and kill all your forward momentum. When drifting, you have to remember to be delicate with the throttle. Take on a mild S-curve, going in from a high-speed corner in the snow. Be careful not to hit the walls. Fine drift control is of course needed, but an appropriate driving line is the most important factor. If you are careful not to go too wide at the exit of the left high-speed corner, it'll make your approach into the later S-curve easier. Try a consecutive hairpin turn starting from a difficult chicane. Switch directions quickly and watch your rhythm. This section takes place on a descending hill where the car has a tendency to lose its handling balance. The rear tires may lose their grip, inducing oversteer. Be careful when applying the throttle, especially if your car starts drifting. Apply countersteering when necessary. This challenge involves an approach into a blind corner. Where you start braking is an important factor for success. If you do not decelerate enough, the car will simply be pushed off the course. Use the driving line as a reference to learn the distance between the braking point and the corner. If you turn a tight circle once within the corner, it'll raise your time. Try driving a relatively mild consecutive corner at the beginning of the Grand Canyon. You'll reach your goal after clearing 3 corners. Following the proper racing line is important even on dirt. It's of paramount importance here because the last half of the section consists of blind corners due to the incline of the trend. The key to success is using the entire width of the road and maintaining a quick pace throughout. Drive the last section of Amalfi, a section with a series of tight hairpins. Clear the 3 hairpin corners while being careful not to hit the walls. Don't carry too much speed into a corner. The rule here is out, in, out. So decelerate the car properly before turning in and make sure you're able to clip the apex of the corners. Master the midsection of the El Capitan with its large up and down inclines. It's hard to find a driving line here, so be careful you do not act too late. To save time at the S-curve immediately after the tunnel, you want to turn right early, before you even see the corner, and skim the face of the rocks as you clear the turn. Master a difficult consecutive corner with ups and downs, something you'll only find on a dirt course. You'll need to make fast judgments and have quick reflexes for this one. Bad visibility may cause you to brake later than you'd like, so make sure you brake early for these corners. Also avoid long four-wheel drifts. Although they may look good, you'll be quicker utilizing the superior grip provided by the four-wheel drive. Master the narrow winding sections of the Italy City course in a Fiat Punto. This will require quick judgment and control. To drive fast, you need to drive right next to the walls, but the narrow road makes you more prone to hit them. Therefore, it'll be important to know the width of the car well. You'll also want to remember to be thorough, fully accelerating where you can and fully decelerating where you need to. At the Suzuka circuit, overtake opponents in the area between the 130R and the chicane. Make your move as you enter the chicane. Make sure you're able to draft your opponents, taking full advantage of their slipstreams. When entering the chicane, be careful not to brake too late, or you won't be able to make the turn. Also, make sure you're on the inside of the corner so you can effectively keep your opponents from overtaking you. At the high-speed ring, pass your opponents between the final corner and the straightaway. Use slipstreams to your advantage. If you are immediately behind your opponent at the final corner, you'll be able to overtake them on the straightaway. The key is raising your speed as much as possible in their slipstream. Overtake two opponents at the urban high-speed section of Tokyo Route 246. This section consists of mid to high-speed corners, so drafting and using slipstreams is key. The best place to overtake is on the straights. The track is wide, so there should be a number of good places to pass. Overtake two opponents at the Seoul City course. Pass opponents by utilizing the wide track to your advantage. You'll want to carry as much speed as you can going onto the long straight after you exit the first corner. So get on the power as early as possible as you exit the corner and stay flat out once you're on the straight. Also, make sure you use all of the track. It's wide here, so know where your opponent is and then make your move. This is a one-lap sprint race on the Tsukuba circuit. Overtake three opponents before the finish line. There are 4 points for overtaking on the Tsukuba circuit. At the first corner, at the 2 hairpins, and the area between the back straight and the final corner. In the first 3, you can delay your braking and go inside to overtake, while on the last, you'll want to utilize your opponent's slipstream to get ahead. This is a one-lap match on the Gran Valley Speedway, a technical course 5 kilometers in length. Overtake 3 opponents before the finish line. Don't let the numerous corners at the Gran Valley Speedway fool you into thinking there are a lot of chances to overtake here. The fact is, there are only a few places where passing is possible. The best spot may be the tight corner after the straight, where you'll need to brake late and pass your opponent on the inside of the corner. This head-to-head battle is between your Toyota GT1 and a Mercedes CLK GTR. Your goal is to overtake and pass the Mercedes before it reaches the finish line. Twin Ring Motegi has only 4 corners before the finish line. The best chance to overtake is between the S-curve and the V-shaped corner. Get as close as you can at the S-curve and pass your opponent at the entry to the V-shaped corner. Ferrari versus Lamborghini, 2 Italian supercars battling for the lead. To successfully complete this trial, use the Lamborghini to overtake the Ferrari before crossing the finish line. There are only a few places you can pass, so choosing where to make your move is vital. We suggest that you get right on the Ferrari's tail at the exit of the chicane and then go for the pass at the entry to the final corner. Be careful not to scrape the walls. Overtake 2 opponents in the Ford GT LM race car before the finish line. If you see an opportunity to pass, take it. It's difficult to see the road ahead here due to the elevation changes on this track. You'll need to memorize the track layout and the driving line. Get through the corners carefully so you can get on the throttle early for the long straight. This will be the only way to close the distance on your competitors. Be extra careful when you brake for a turn, as the Ford GT has a tendency to oversteer when there are lateral G's at play. Overtake 2 opponents in the midsection of the Laguna Seca Raceway. Your skills on the corkscrew will determine if you can outperform the competition. Laguna Seca is full of mid to high speed corners, so make sure to stay on your opponent's slipstream to overtake them. Pass 1 opponent in the first half and your second opponent at the corkscrew. Overtake 3 opponents at the Sarth Circuit. Can you take the lead in this over 200-mile-an-hour race? Because of the long straightaway, you'll want to get ahead using slipstreams. At the 2 chicanes, you want to focus on your speed out of the corner rather than into the corner. Also, even if you get ahead of your opponent, you must still watch out. Check their position in your rearview mirror and make sure they do not overtake you. Overtake 3 opponents at the difficult Nürburgring course. Can you come out on top of this ultra-thrilling race? As usual, take advantage of slipstreams to raise your speed. Though there are many corners in the Nürburgring, the course is narrow, so you don't want to push it. You need to be selective on where to pass. Driving lines in high-speed corners are very sensitive. If you're looking to overtake, you want to do so at low-speed corners that require hard braking. This is the beginning of a long 20.8-kilometer journey. First, try the mid to low speed section with corners that switch quickly left and right. Through these S's, you may want to throttle steer the car, using both the steering and throttle to point your car in the right direction. Make sure you clip the inside berm of each corner. Next is a long, high-speed, full-throttle section with a high-speed corner waiting at the end. The beginning is a little bumpy, and if you go fast enough, you might end up catching some air. It will be safer if you slow down just before launching off the bump at the start of this trial. Also, watch your speed as you enter the last turn. Chances are, if you're going too fast into the turn, you'll end up off the course. Always aim for a slow-in, fast-out strategy. This section is a very dynamic incline ending in a tight chicane. It's easy to crash here, so make sure to be in control of your speed. The left corner just after the climb will be easy to clear if you hit the apex just right. The chicane in the latter half is very tight, so brake heavy. Just remember, slow in, fast out. This is a series of difficult mid to low speed blind corners in succession where it will be hard to determine the driving line. The key to this challenge is in the ascending left corner at the middle of this section. Increase your exit speed by setting your apex point further into the corner so that your line out of the corner is mild. A series of mid to high speed turns followed by a tight hairpin. Watch your speed and maintain your driving line. At the mid-speed corner turning widely to the right, if you decelerate slightly before you enter the corner, it'll make your line in the latter half a little easier. At the hairpin that follows, it'll be too late if you start braking after the corner is visible. You want to brake early and approach the hairpin with your car in a stable state. This is a dynamic section that goes from a light descent to a steep upward incline. Focus on your timing for turning into the corner. Understeering is a common problem at the corner in this section. You want to steer early to make sure you're able to hit the apex on the berms at the inside of the turn. Be careful at the final corner as well, where late braking can make your driving line flare outward. An ascending full-throttle section continues for some time. The corners are mild, but you'll need to stay focused on the bumpy road. There will be less loss if you keep your steering as straight as possible in the straightaway. The tight right corner before the goal is a place that you can run off the course easily if you are not careful. So once you see the corner, start braking early. After you pass the carousel, you'll be confronted by medium-speed left and right-handers. There are drastic elevation changes here, so you need to control your speed. This first bend is a blind corner, so make sure you turn in at the right time and clip the apex. The latter half of this section is a descending hill, where your car will tend to speed up and understeer will become more prominent. This section consists of a series of uphill, mid-speed corners. The Nürburgring is famous for its variety of these types of turns. You'll drive past the famous spectator spot here too. The ascending corner is basically a blind corner, so be careful not to turn in too late. At the jumping spot just before the goal, it'll be safer if you step on the brake just before launching. After a high-speed descending corner, you'll pass a jumping spot. Be careful not to disrupt your car's balance here. The parts you'll need to focus on are the section where the car gets airborne and the tight corner that immediately follows the jump. If you tap the brakes right before getting air, you'll be less likely to run off the road when you land, and you should be in a better position to negotiate the tight corner. This is the high-speed section near the end. The road is bumpy on the first half, so stay in control of your car's orientation. At the consecutive corners to the right and left after the straight, if you set your driving line out, in, going into the first right corner, it'll make the approach to the following left corner easier. This is the final section starting in a long 2-kilometer straightaway. Once you are past the last obstacle, the chicane, you have reached the finish line. When you brake for the chicane, make sure your car is free of lateral G's or the handling balance, if your car will be upset. If you're still getting used to the controls, try decelerating in 2 stages instead of all at once.